Welcome to the Time Excellence Show, episode 114. Hi, I'm Douglas Calvin, and on the Time Excellence Show, we prospect for time, discovering nuggets of time opportunity to make more of a difference in your organization, your career, and your personal life. Well, I want to welcome you today because we've got a really interesting show because it follows up on our last episode 113. Where we talked about KanBan. Well, today we're going to be doing a quick KanBan review of how we get material to our point of use, whether that be an office, whether it be at home, or whether it be a factory manufacturing something. We're going to review that because one of those internal processes, the communication of the signal, is what we're really going to focus on today. And I'm going to have a tip on my favorite app for that. It's one that really has worked well for the simpler trip points in KanBan. So stay tuned and you're going to really, I think, enjoy that. We're going to be looking at that in a very basic way. We're not going to get complicated. We're not going to be looking at big business systems. We're going to be looking at the simple KanBan pull process because that's where we can have the best impact at our home and at our office. And factories usually have their large operational systems. Well, if we recall, we started with a box of cereal example. And that example was one that allowed us to show all the pieces to the KanBan's system. First, it sends a signal or a trip. Second, the signal is a request for an action. Someone needs to do something, and that action results in more material arriving at some future point in time. And we have to know in the interim when that signal's already been sent so we don't duplicate it. We don't want 2, 3 signals. So in the cereal example, we said, well, you know, we could literally estimate the usage plus safety stock. So the usage was about 1/3 of a box in 4 days of replenishment time. And we rounded that up to half of a box so that we would know that we've got enough. Well, we drew a line on the side of the box, and that was our trip point. When the level of the container gets down, it's going down over time, and when it gets down to that level, we're going to send the signal to order. When it does hit that order point, we add it to our list. We might have eggs already on the list we talked about, and we're going to add cereal because we now have 4 days to get the shopping done. We wanted to go about twice a week, which is round numbers, 4 days, 3.5 rounded up to 4. And during that time period, our inventory or our level of our goods is going to continue to go down. So that level is decreasing, and we should be able to get our shopping done in that time. Well, when it comes time to shopping, we take that list and we go buy the material. We buy the eggs, we buy the cereal, and bread's on the list too, possibly by now. But the cereal is what we want to key on. And that purchase then should get back to our home in this example with a second box of cereal. That second box is put behind the first, and another line is added for a trip point. As the cereal level goes down, we continue until the box is empty, the second box, we remove it, and we're left with one box starting the process over. And in the middle of that process, we put a check mark on top of that line, which indicated the trip had been sent. Well, a key process in this is that signal and getting it to someone and making sure it's not dropped. If that signal is dropped, we're going to eventually run out. And we always look at that to have a good signal. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to how that communication is going to happen. Time excellence, the key to making more of a difference today by maximizing time for organizational, career, and personal achievement. We invite you to join us for each episode of the Time Excellence Show to write an even brighter chapter in your life. One of hope, growth, and purpose. The Time Excellence Show, prospecting for time together. So now we're going to look at communicating that signal. What options do we have? Well, there's a few, and we want to look at those. Well, first off, we've got to consider the challenge. This communication, if it's dropped, will result in us not having enough material in the future. In this case, we would run out of cereal, but if I was in a factory environment, we would run out of maybe of a critical bolt or a shaft that goes into the assembly. So we've got to think about that and make sure that the trip is followed through. And if it happens frequently and has to be communicated to a different location, then that's something that we've got to consider, because the more time that this process takes, the less accurate it will be with people. They'll tend not to do it, forget to do it. I'll do it later, I'll put it on the list, etc. So it's in those cases that we really want to look at how it's done and make it just as easy as possible. Simplify and then automate it is how we like to think. So that challenge has some options. And the first one is one that we've probably all used before, but it's a good starting point. Number one, it's a manual process. We've probably all done that, where we take a sheet of paper, and if I run out of something, I'm going to put it on the list. Cereal, write it down. And then I'm going to add bread, and I'm going to add olives, whatever. These KanBan trips are causing us to do an action which we write it down. That list then is taken when we go shop. We check it off as we go through the store, and we then bring back the goods. Anything that maybe they were out of, we put on the new list, and the cycle goes on. Well, that list then has some requirements. A, it's got to get on the list. B, we may have to communicate it. We may have to send an email. If it's a purchasing department, I got to send an email. Say, hey, buy me more of this. Takes time. The requirements have to be added each time. If I wanted bread that was organic wheat, well, bread, organic wheat, whole wheat, without anything on top. Those requirements have to be transmitted. So that is a doable. It's one that we're all familiar with, and it does work. It can deliver a KanBan signal somewhat effectively. If I'm a business, I raise the bar. We're doing it more formally. And even if I've got visual trips, levels on containers or containers emptying, that has to be sent to someone. Often the business system that we're running can communicate that signal. It can through a signal by someone on the floor and or an inventory level trigger can send to procurement, buy me more. So that's a little bit advanced for this session. We want to stay with the simple. We want to stay with our cereal example. So with that, we want to talk about a solution that might work for homes and for small businesses. This is one that I've found extremely effective, and you can see why, because that signal is effectively listed and communicated to everyone. And that involves a software called Wunderlist. That's Wunderlist. Wunderlist, available at wunderlist.com. Now, there is a free version. It's a bottom-end version, obviously, and the more capability you want, such as the more people that need to see it. But if you've just got a few people and a few stores or simple stores you go to, you probably can start very nicely on the Wunderlist software. And that software is pretty nice because it allows you to do the list very similar to what you would have done manually, but it's got some extreme advantages. One of the few times that I'd say automation can bring us value because we've simplified it down to such a simple level that this software just fits so nicely. You know, one of the key benefits is the software can be accessed from just about any device. It can be accessed from a Mac. It can be accessed from Android devices, iPhones, tablets of all types, computer web. In fact, in a minute, I'm going to show you on my computer. From the Apple Watch, Windows phones, Chromebooks, Kindle Fire, all these devices can communicate that trigger. And so when we're ready to go buy, we just pull it up on whatever we've got with us. Now, if you have no electronic devices, then this solution is not for you. But I think it's fair to say that very, very many of us have one or two devices. And the beauty is the list isn't a piece of paper where one person has it. Two people can have it, and that can have some advantages for us. So this is how it would work. We would make, in the Wunderlist software, we would make possibly a category called shopping lists. And the shopping lists would hold a variety of our stores that we like to shop at. Could be Whole Foods, could be Walmart, could be PetSmart, could be Kroger. These are stores that are in our region, but what stores are in your region? That's what you would put down on your list. And for those stores, you would have a list of items that you typically buy from there. We all have those needs that fit our requirements at a certain store. So I get my fruit at one place. I may get office supplies from another. I may get hardware from another. And so we really need to split it up. But if you're like most of us, once you start buying and are satisfied from a store, you typically will get that same item over and over. Now, we'll do a specialty recipe, and we'll need that specialty ingredient, maybe that special spice. That falls outside of the KanBan trip, but it can still be put on the list. So what we would do is add to the list all of the items that we would need. We would add, in this case, apples, pears, red grapes, avocados, fresh fruit, tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, broccoli, etc., etc., etc. And that list would be constant. Once we buy, we put it on our KanBan item list, and we decide what the signal would be. And in this case, if it is checked in the box, it means a trip has happened and I can buy. So it's very simple, very visual, and we're going to take a minute to actually look at that after we review the requirements. We're going to look at the actual software. So what are the steps I would recommend? I would recommend the following steps to make sure that you send a signal that is visual, that is accurate, and that can be cleared easily. So first off, we create a list. We add the items, the subtasks, and the quantity. Now, my wife and I use the standard that if I just call it out, it means one, if I put a quantity after it. So if I want apples 3 pounds, it's apples 3 pounds. If I want can of split pea soup, then can of split pea soup means 1. If I want 3, I'll put 3 after it. And those items will always stay on the list, as we said. Okay? Here's a key difference between a list. We can drag those in the order that we want. And when we go to a grocery store, think of this. Put it in the order that the items are seen as you walk through the store. Wow. Now that's pretty interesting. So if I go in the store and the fruit is first, and then there's the deli, and then I end up going to the vegetables, and then I end up at the milk area, and then near the aisles that will have the canned goods, if I put my items in that order, and it stays in that order, as I go through the store, I'm not having to worry about it. It takes me very efficiently through the store. So placing them in order, and it only has to happen once, and we leave it in that order. The trip point would happen, and we would add a check mark on that item. That check mark would indicate I need to be bought. And when we buy it and put it in our cart, we would uncheck it just by clicking with our finger. That could be on our cell phone. That could be on a tablet we took. It's very, very easy. And at buy again, we remove that check mark. So let's take a look at it, and then we're going to talk about how we might save time with that. And here's a view for those of you that are watching. I will describe it for those of you listening on the podcast because it's very similar. A list of stores is usually given you. Now, I'm on a laptop today, so you're going to see more information on one screen. The items are usually narrower when you're on your cell phone. It's very easy to see, but they're usually much smaller than what you'll see here. So if I went to Whole Foods, which is the one I'm going to choose, then I would click on it. Now you can see there is a bar that shows me I'm probably about 30% of my items have tripped on the Whole Foods. So I'm going to click that, and what that will do is open up my shopping list. The shopping list has apples, 6 of them. The next item's pears. The next item is red grapes. The next item is avocados, 4 of them. And it continues on down, and there are probably 40 items on this list. So if I were using this system, I would check the things I needed. Now, if I was at home and the apples just went to the trip point, all I have to do is click onto the box, a little tone sounds, and I've just said, I need apples. We need to buy apples. So that would hold on this list. It's tripped. I would mark my apple trigger that we've already ordered it. When I go to the store, or actually when my wife goes to the store, she'll take up hers. I tripped it because I happened to take the apple that tripped it. She will see that on the list, and as she puts the apples in her cart, she'll take her finger and just check that it's been bought. That dynamically takes it off the list. And it continues on and on. So in this case, if I were shopping, the items that are checked, if I were in the store right now, red grapes I need to buy. I need to buy 3 large tomatoes. I need to then go through and get shrimp, then ground beef, then stew meat, then bacon, then cashews. And these have descriptions that are just more. These are unsalted, raw, organic cashews. Well, if you're making a manual list, how would you like to write that each time? Specialty crackers, there's a brand, rosemary and sea salt. So those are the types. So we don't have to write it all out. All we have to do is click it. And with that click, we're able to turn things on and off. There's one store, you can see Trader Joe's, that we buy for our daughter too. It's a little bit far away from where we live. So sometimes my daughter will have us shop for her too, get a few items that she is, and she doesn't have to make that long trip. That's one of our concepts in saving time, is that if we can do for one and share that way, it will save time for everyone. So those items can be brought up very, very easily. This is pretty simple but powerful. At any time, if someone's out and they want to clear the KanBan triggers, all they have to do is open their cell phone, and the latest is right there. It's always current. It's easy to trip, and got some true savings. So let's go look at what some of those savings might be. Well, it saves time because, again, you type it once, and after that, there's no typing. And just put a check to check it on, or the box is empty to take it off. A check means it's been triggered and we're going to buy. And all of our stores are set up now. Very easy to add an item, and we can keep things in control. The list is always with the team, whoever the team is. It could be as many as you want. Now, if you get into lots of team members, as I said, Wunderlist costs a little bit more money, maybe $5 US a day. That would be expensive. $5 US a month to get up. But just a couple people, the free one will do it. The items are in order. That is so powerful. So powerful. The items are in order. You can just go through the store, bang, 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 bang. Have you ever gone through the list? Oh man, I forgot this. You're checking them off, and they're all randomly listed. You're going back and forth, and you end up missing something. You have to go all the way across the store to get that item. Well, this helps prevent that because the items are in the order of the shopping in that store. And here's a bonus tip. Well, we've done this before where we really, really wanted to save time, and that's one that is really fun to do. The possibility is to shop the list from two directions. So there was one time particularly I can recall that we went into one of the stores, and we were both there, and we were in a rush. And so my wife, Janet, took her iPhone and started working the list from the top. So in this case, she would get the red grapes, then she'd get the tomatoes, and she would be walking the store that way. At the same time, I grabbed a second cart, and I started working the bottom up. I went the opposite way in the store, and I started with the coconut milk, and then would get the coffee in this example, then the specialty crackers, etc. And we meet in the middle. And as we're going, the items are being checked off dynamically, so if we had to, we could see where each other was, and we meet in the middle and then go to checkout. Well, that cut the time in half. We had two carts, checked it through as a single transaction, and that is really powerful. It's hard to do that very efficiently with manual lists. So doing that is something that on those occasions, it's not going to be every time, but on those occasions that you really, really need to save time, and you've got more than one person there, you could get 2-3 people going on that. So that's it. Work with at least 2 people, cut the time in half. That Wunderlist list allows us to do that. Well, our challenge is still to use our time opportunity the best that we can. And we always want to remember that. And that's what we've talked about today. How can we do shopping and make sure our system of tripping and replenishment is simple and it goes in the background? Because if it goes in the background, then we've got more time to spend where we really add value, where our talent is, where our dreams are, where our must happen is, where our children are, where our jobs, and we've got this new program we want to install. We reduce these type items to the mundane, and that is powerful. So actions for today. Hey, review the last session, TES 113, Time Excellence Show 113. That's when we went in detail about how to replenish and how to calculate the replenishment items. In fact, for the geeks among us, in the second part of that session, we did an Excel spreadsheet. So if you're into that and missed it, go listen to 113. Then decide how you want to communicate with your system and use it. Hey, if it's the paper, it's the paper. It's fine. If Wunderlist works, if it fits your world, give it a try. Doesn't cost anything to try that. And if you're in a business, I would recommend some fairly robust. A small business might have a list of office goods, etc. Wunderlist could work there. If you're really building manufacturing and large factories, a typical factory can have tens of thousands of part numbers. You really need a business system to help control that, control your inventories, control your purchase specifications, control your lead times, etc. So Wunderlist will fit that niche, but it's a big niche. And most of us eat and most of us shop. So if we do that personally, I will challenge you to give Wunderlist a try. I think you're going to like it. Take one step forward in your movement, your improvement toward time excellence. Visit us at douglascalvin.com. You can go to douglascalvin.com/go/webinar to participate in our free training webinar. There is a lot of links there. If you go to douglascalvin.com, there is links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our LinkedIn, our YouTube, our iTunes. We're all over the place. And guess what? Any interaction you can do will help, because that puts it up on the news feeds. That helps it gets it out to more people, because this is offered free for your benefit. And we hope that you help others. Friend, thumbs up us, retweet us, share us, comment, all those things really, really help. Time excellence. Mastering time to make more of a difference today. I'm Douglas Calvin. Thanks for joining. Until next time.